So next up, we've got Camilla Elphick, who has just finished her PhD. Submitted yet?
No.
Oh, I shouldn't mention it.
Maybe,
I'm
sorry.
Maybe.
Shh, don't mention PhD.
Yeah. So you've been at Sussex for 3.5 years now, with Graham Hall.
Yes.
And I've got two really cool little facts about Camilla. One is that she used to be a portrait artist and has been commissioned to paint members of the royal family.
Yeah.
Which is pretty
In my
cool.
previous life.
Now we're talking point for coffee. The second is that you're working for a startup called Spot. So they've created a chatbot for recording and reporting workplace harassment and discrimination, which I think is brilliant. And if you're interested in that, you can have a chat with Camilla. Do you want the microphone, Camilla?
No, it's okay.
No.
That voice.
Project. Okay. She's going to talk to us today about, is it possible to measure an eyewitness's credibility?
Yeah, and the brief was to do like a TED-style talk, so that's what I've done. So it's a bit science-light, and I've only got 3 slides. Okay, so in America, it is estimated that there are about 10,000 innocent people who are convicted every year. It is even estimated that about 1 in 25 people on death row are innocent. However, the figures are probably far worse. Convicted people who are later declared innocent spend, on average, 14 years in prison. Although the longest case is that of Richard Phillips. He was freed in March after spending 45 years for a murder he did not commit. He was 27 when he was arrested. He is now 73. Finally, over 70% of wrongful convictions are related to eyewitnesses misidentifying the wrong person in the United States. This is because it is really difficult to recognise someone you've only seen briefly before, particularly if you're afraid during a crime or if you're afraid during a lineup. It is more difficult to get the statistics in the UK, but it seems that this is a global problem and it can happen to anybody. So, in 1984, Jennifer Thompson Camino was raped. She was later asked to do a lineup that contained 7 men. Although she was uncertain, she picked number 5, Ronald Cotton. Cotton was convicted and was imprisoned for 11 years until DNA evidence proved that he was innocent of the crime. Meanwhile, the perpetrator, Bobby Poole, was free to commit other rapes until he too was imprisoned at the same prison. Now, the tragic irony of this case is that Bobby Poole was also present in the same lineup. He was number 2. Blackstone's formulation is a principle in criminal law which states that it is better that 10 guilty persons escape than 1 innocent should suffer. But what do you think? Is it better to interrupt 1 innocent life? Or is it better that people are at risk from dangerous criminals? Well, I think it's important to try to address both. But most previous eyewitness research has either improved measures that might reduce the rates of wrongful convictions at the expense of wrongful non-convictions, or vice versa. I believe pupillometry could help. So we all know that pupils get bigger because lighting levels change, but they also change size for other reasons. So pupillometry measures these pupillary changes as people perform tasks in order to make inferences about what's going on in the brain. For instance, it's widely believed that pupils get bigger when a person looks at someone they're attracted to. Could be handy. They also get bigger when people are performing difficult mathematical tasks compared to easy ones. And they also get bigger when people look at something they remember having seen before, compared to looking at something they have never seen before, even if they are asked to lie about remembering it. So I'm Camilla Elphick, and I'm investigating with Graham Hall and Graham Pike from University whether it is possible to measure an eyewitness's memory strength in a lineup as they're looking at faces. And we have found that we can. So first of all, we showed participants a video of a mock crime, and then later we asked them to look at a lineup containing possible suspects. Overall, we found that pupils became 32% larger when looking at the criminal compared to looking at the other faces, but only in participants who correctly identified him. There were no pupillary changes in people who made no identification, and there were none in people who misidentified an innocent person. We also had a version of the lineup where the criminal was not present, and pupils did not change size no matter what people did. They did not even change as the person who misidentified an innocent person was making their misidentification. Therefore, we concluded that pupillary changes only occurred in participants who recognised the criminal as they were looking at him. This suggested that the pupil size changes were a measure of recognition strength rather than the consequence of making identification. We also found that we could predict whether a participant had recognised the criminal or not by looking at their pupil sizes. And this was particularly accurate in participants who rated their own memory as very strong. Those who said that they remembered the criminal well and identified him had dramatic pupillary changes when looking at his face that reflected this strong memory. However, those who claimed to remember the criminal well but did not identify him had no pupillary changes at all, suggesting that their belief in their strong memory was wrong. And finally, in some participants who claimed they were guessing, we saw pupillary changes when they looked at the criminal's face, despite the fact that they did not identify him. This suggested that they may have had some implicit recognition for his face, and that either they made no identification because their memory strength was not strong enough for them to be aware of it, or they made no identification for other reasons. So it is possible that pupillometry could provide a useful tool for police in lineups. Currently, all police have to go on are identification responses, and we know that these are unreliable. Pupillometry could add additional information about the memory strength of an eyewitness as they're looking at individual faces that could help police make credibility assessments. And the technology is available to conduct pupillary lineups in eyewitnesses and victims' own homes. This means they do not have to be re-traumatised by doing so at the police station. So, therefore, it seems that pupillometry could provide some sort of solution for the issues of wrongful convictions, reducing the likelihood of interrupting innocent lives. And it could also help to address some of the issues of wrongful non-convictions by reducing the likelihood that dangerous perpetrators are free to commit further crimes. And I just wanted to leave with a couple of photographs. So this is Richard Phillips, who I mentioned. He was released 2 months ago after serving 45 years for a murder he didn't commit. And this is Ronald Cotton, who was accused of raping Jennifer Thompson-Canino and was then later found innocent. And they now work together to fight for justice. Thank you very much. Any questions from Camilla?
One in the front. If you would like the microphone. Run, Harry, run.
Hi, that was very interesting. And I was just wondering, for the lineup, did you do like a all at the same time lineup or a serial lineup?
Yeah, well done. Yeah, we did what's called a sequential lineup. So all the photographs, well, they weren't photographs, we actually had video clips. We followed the UK procedure, and they have short video clips of each face, and they come one after the other. In the US, they have a similar sequential procedure in some states, but they're just photographs. And most states in the United States choose to have simultaneous lineups where they just see all the photographs together. We don't believe that pupillometry would work when all the faces are shown together, because some people can dismiss faces using their peripheral vision, and also pupils wouldn't have time to reset between looking at photographs. But it seems to work with the current UK system. Thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, loads. This side, Harry. Go to Sarah.
Hi, you're talking about pupils increasing with criminals and stuff like that. If you were doing this and it was something, I mean, do pupils increase just when you see someone you recognise?
Yeah, we did some other studies as well. Before, the first half of my PhD was really just looking at what happens to your pupil sizes as people look at faces. And we did see that there were pupil size changes according to familiarity and other things as well. But those sort of pupillary changes were much smaller, they were like sort of 2%. It was only when we got to the lineup that we saw these big increases of like 32%.
Do you think you might get the same effect when people are trying to pretend that they don't know someone?
Well, this is why I think it's interesting, because I know you're perhaps not so keen on pupillometry, and you know a lot about lying. I think it's interesting. I think the oh, sorry. I do apologise. I don't know. I think the interesting thing is that the participants who are guessing and don't identify, when you see those pupillary changes, it indicates that, as I said, either they the memory strength maybe wasn't strong enough, but also people can make no identification for other reasons, such as if they know the suspect and they don't want to identify them. So we haven't looked into it, but it maybe has potential.
Okay, one more question.
Are the pictures of the suspects taken after they've been arrested? Or
Sorry, I didn't hear.
in the lineup, are the pictures of the suspects taken after they have been arrested? Or are they also old pictures? I mean,
Well,
can they look different when they're guilty?
Right, okay, so again in the UK, they have this system called Viper. And what they do with the videos, they record, anyone can join, you can just go onto Viper and volunteer, and basically they film you with the same camera against a white background, and you just turn your head left to the right, back to centre. And when they get a suspect, they film them in exactly the same procedure. And then the suspect is matched to faces from the database according to the description from the eyewitness, and also according to what they look like. It also helps to reduce wrongful convictions, because if you pick the wrong person, they're not going to be put in prison.
I guess my question is, would you get the same effect from someone that sees someone that's guilty in the picture, but has never seen them before?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Could the suspect who is guilty look different from the others who are not guilty? In a way, in
Oh, in the way that their facial expression.
You know, that could trigger the same response in people that actually are not familiar with the suspect, have never seen them.
Interesting. I haven't. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. I don't know. In this case, they were just police coppers acting their part. But mind you, we did also the experiment on Brighton Pier with somebody that people had already met, and we also manipulated it according to how fearful the participants were. They'd just been on a horrible, scary ride, and we found that fearful people had large pupil sizes, but made no difference to the pupillary effects, and they recognised her. I don't know if she got guilty or not. But yeah, sorry, I don't know the answer.
Thanks, Camilla.